Good morning, everyone, and welcome to your morning report for Thursday, the 6th of November, 2025. This is Robert standing in for Mike. We're going to get started on the domestic sit rep. So, yesterday, the Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy, said that the Trump administration is preparing to cut U.S. flight capacity by 10% nationwide, and this is going to affect the 40 largest U.S. airports. Duffy said that these cuts will take effect on Friday, tomorrow, the 7th of November. And he added that the Trump administration could impose more flight capacity cuts if air traffic controller staffing shortages worsen. Duffy also said that typically in the past, a lot of these flight cancellations, delays, and capacity cuts have come. 5% of them have been due to ATC staffing shortages. He's now said that since the beginning of the federal government shutdown on October 1st, more than 50% of the delays in flight cancellations and now this capacity cut has been due to ATC shortages. And also, I provided a link in the report to an ABC News report that does outline which airports are going to be affected. Yesterday, President Trump also urged the Senate Republicans to use what's called the nuclear option to end the Senate legislative filibuster. The nuclear option is effectively the Senate majority would pass a bill with a simple majority and then ignore the Senate rule that imposes that 60 vote requirement. Just Senate Majority Leader John Thune reiterated that some Senate Republicans have refused to end the filibuster. And looking at some of the comments from Senate Republicans, apparently Tom Tillis said there are 15 or more Senate Republicans who are against ending the legislative filibuster. Then moving over to the domestic side, 3 Chinese nationals were charged by the Department of Justice yesterday. The indictment was unsealed yesterday. And these 3 Chinese nationals were working at the University of Michigan, and they've been charged with smuggling biological materials from China into the United States. And they are connected with a case earlier this year in June where a Chinese national was charged with smuggling roundworm into the U.S. through the Michigan International Airport. The DOJ said that these 3 Chinese nationals received multiple shipments in 2024 and 2025 that were concealing biological materials related to roundworms. And this roundworm, could be used to infect cattle in the United States. It would not be the first time that suspicious bioagents have entered the U.S., including just this year. And these bioagents could be used to target U.S. food supply chains via agroterrorism. And this goes back to, as Mike has pointed out multiple times, this unrestricted warfare document published in 1999, where part of that is talking about finding ways to target the United States, who is technologically superior to China. And one of those ways is attacking the U.S. economy. And there's also been allegations for years that the orange blight that has effectively killed the citrus industry here in Florida was also originated in China. Some of the other agents that we've talked about that have been attempted to be smuggled inside of the United States this year include the wheat blight and the cherry fruit fly from Europe that was brought by a Romanian national. But that doesn't necessarily mean that person is unconnected to the Chinese government. But I have not seen an update on that specific case yet. Also, the conservative super PAC Club for Growth said it's raising money for mid-decade redistricting campaigns in Republican-controlled states, and they did say this includes Ohio and Florida. The National Republican Redistricting Trust Director Adam Kincaid said that Republican donors are now beginning to understand the importance of this mid-decade redistricting, and they're giving more money, which for the Republican side I think is important because that is in California, where they passed Prop 50 on Tuesday. Governor Gavin Newsom raised $150 million for that campaign, and the Republican resistance basically withered away. So they ran unopposed effectively, and now it looks like some of these groups that were started a few years ago, I think in 2017, are starting to put money in some of the red state redistricting efforts. There are opposing groups, so the National Republican Redistricting Trust there are some similar nonprofits on the Democrats that are aligned with the Democratic Party that are doing the same thing, and they're putting money into these campaigns to get mid-decade maps in red and blue states. They're also, in the case of the Democratic groups, suing in red states to stop mid-decade redistricting. And then finally, the Revolutionary Communist Party USA's 5th November protest event began at the National Mall yesterday in Washington, D.C. Some of the organizers with Refuse Fascism, which is the group that RevCom is doing this under, said that 1,000 people attended the National Mall protest. And according to the information put out by RevCom and Refuse Fascism, this is an ongoing event. So today, they're expected to resume at George Washington University and then eventually move to the Supreme Court. All right, Jared, if you could take us through the global sit rep, please.
Yep, we're going to start off over in the Middle East. Reuters reports that sources familiar with the matter say the U.S. is preparing to have a permanent military presence at an airbase in Damascus, Syria, and the troops will be there to maintain peace between Syria and Israel. Over in the Philippines began a drill on Monday, and this is for actually defending the northern island from invasion by the Chinese. Now, the drill actually involves thousands of troops and an unnumbered amount of Coast Guardsmen and police as a whole of nation defense. Over in Colombia reports that its cartels and illegal armed groups have grown by 67% since President Petro began his total peace policy of negotiating with them back in 2022. And this is the second similar report we've heard from this. They also covered the coca fields growing pretty substantially. And lastly, the Americas Summit, which is annual, has been postponed until 2026. It was supposed to happen in December. And this is coming from the president of the Dominican Republic, who was supposed to host it. That president consulted all the members, including the United States, and decided to delay due to divisions across the continent. Now, the president previously said that it's actually on the United States to determine who ultimately who can even join the summit and whether or not it will convene at all. So this sounds like the U.S. called in and said, we're not doing this year.
All right. Thank you for that, Jared. Let's move on. We are tracking 57 protests today, and we are going to move over to the high side, where we are going to talk about the Homeland Operations Sit Rep. We're also going to cover developments with this ongoing government shutdown, because there have been multiple predictions from Republicans that one thing or the other is going to push Democrats to agree to vote for this continuing resolution and in the shutdown. But I don't think that's I don't think that's what's happening, actually, especially after Democrats feel like they swept these Tuesday elections in Virginia, New Jersey, and California. And if you want to get access to the high side and our analysis and questions and answer session, you can go to forwardobserver.com/trial and get a 7-day free trial. All right, Jared, could you take us to the high side, please?